Today's show is sponsored by the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop is located in the St. Louis metro community of Arnold, Missouri, and is the world's first single-barrel only liquor store. This store is owned and operated by Steve Akeley and Jim Fosnot. Get signed up for their email distribution list to find out when the store will be opening, what their hours will be, and most importantly, what they will have in inventory at abvbarrelshop.com. We are also sponsored by The Bar to Go. The Bar to Go offers a fully customizable carrying case that allows you to take your favorite distilled spirits or cocktail ingredients with you. Whether you're looking for yourself, a customized gift, or logo items for your business or event, The Bar to Go can help. Check them out at thebartogo.com. Use the number 2 when you type out The Bar to Go. Did you know Neely Family Distillery now ships its popular distilled spirits directly to you? To order, simply call 859-394-3258. Tell them the ABV Network sent you. And now, on to the show. All right, here we are again. We've got another episode of the Bourbon Talk Show as we enjoy some vacation time. Heather Bean and Lisa Wicker. What do you two remember about this one?
It was an absolute dream. I wanted Lisa for 3 seasons. We finally
it took us 3 years to get Lisa Wicker.
It was so hard for me to not be a fangirl because I love Lisa Wicker so much. I was so excited.
Yeah, me too. I loved it when she did she was on one of our flagships too. I just love listening to her talk.
I do too. She's a big fan of what we do. I mean, legitimately pretty excited about that. The scheduling thing just wasn't working out when we were trying to get her to come on, but she's always a great interview, and we certainly enjoy that time. And Heather Bean is fascinating too. We talk about the smart people in the industry. Heather Bean went to college when she was, I think, 13 years old or something crazy. And then ended up staying there 8 years because she just kept getting degrees. So she has 3 engineering degrees. I mean, who gets 3 engineering degrees? So yeah, crazy stuff.
And she's really funny too. Sometimes when people are that smart, they're not fun to talk to.
Oh yeah, right.
She's an absolute blast. We loved having Heather.
Yeah, she's fun for sure. So there you go. Here is our interview with Heather Bean and Lisa Wicker.
Let's drink!
First guest is one of the most respected distillers from the world of bourbon. Absolutely. She is not only helms Widow Jane brand, but her consulting work means she's helped out numerous distilleries with their products. Please join me in welcoming Lisa Wicker. Hey, Lisa, how's it going?
Hey, Steve. It's good to see everyone. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the invitation, too. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, we love having you on, so it's always a pleasure to talk to you. So we always like to kick it off by kind of getting to know you a little bit on a personal basis, something we've never asked you before, that type of thing. So here's what I got for you. And I don't know, I'm just taking a chance at this. I have no idea if this even applies to you, but what sort of gambling do you like to do if you're going to gamble? I'm not saying you do a lot, but if you ever, something that you enjoy, and it could be table games and casinos, slot machines, sports betting, squares on a board at a Super Bowl party, that type of thing, or what I like playing poker, anything like that. What would you like if you had to choose your favorite way of gambling, if you gamble at all?
Well, the last 5 years, because of being in New York, to get my little dose of Kentucky, there's an app called TwinSpires, and I bet on horses on TwinSpires.
Ah, nice. Like the horses. Okay. Watching the ponies. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been doing okay. I've got a balance close to $500 I've won, I think, in there.
Whoa. Hello. So yeah, that's not bad, huh, Mcnew?
Yeah, it's not bad at all. I download that app every May for the Derby, and then I delete it immediately because I know I will get in trouble.
Yeah, I've had to delete it on myself before. Yes.
So have you ever had one that was just what's the story of the best one that you ever hit? Is there something like a long shot one time that came in?
The Derby before, and you're going to ask me the horse's name, and I'm going to be embarrassed to not tell you. You
can make it up because I don't know. So
I pick horses because they'll if there's Brooklyn is part of the name now or something, and it's oh well, that reminds me of anyway. So that's how I pick horses. That or I've taken my grandsons to Keeneland, and we pick because those silks are prettier than those silks, or
right. Yeah. So you just have fun with it. Yeah, it's not a serious thing. You just have some fun. Yeah.
But I just shocked everyone because I bet on the long shot that it ended up winning, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
yeah.
Very, very cool.
All
All right.
people in my family are like, because I'm still a transplant, right? I've been there for several years now, but my daughter married into a Kentucky family, and they're all like, "What?"
Yeah, they're looking to you now for advice, and you're just like,
I
oh.
like the name.
Yeah. Yep. Nothing wrong with that for sure. Yeah, and you probably have as good a luck as about anybody, because that there is so many factors that go into that horse racing. So yeah, that's not a bad way to go, as long as you're having fun. Lisa, before we get into your career, we have to start out with this because it's been such big news. Obviously, Widow Jane being bought out by Heaven Hill. Give us a little update where we're at on that, and what do you think is going to happen with the company kind of moving forward?
Right now, we are, we're meeting with Heaven Hill and moving forward on different things. But the interesting thing that happened with this, and the thing that surprised so many people, is Sampson and Surrey, our parent, the company that originally bought Widow Jane 5 years ago, is still intact. I still have the same boss. We still have the same organizational structure. And, pretty much it's going to be hands off, except for the fact that we're going to have more support services, right? And be able to, we've had such phenomenal growth over the last 3 years that we'll be able to have a, somebody to help shore us up a little bit. So yeah, I can't wait. I'm so excited. It's so much fun. I'm on these meetings with people that are, a mile from my house. Oh, I probably shouldn't say where my house is in Bardstown. I got a text message one day, and these guys would figure out where I lived, and I was in Brooklyn, and they're all on my front porch taking, pictures.
No, someone would do that?
Yeah. Never dreamed in a million years, but yes, they did.
Yeah. And, have them show up to Mr. Bill's house. That'd be the one and only time they did that, let me tell you.
Another time I told my daughter, I'm gonna call her, I'm like, you have got to run down the street and take my Widow Jane sticker off my truck.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have time to explain. Just go take the Widow Jane sticker off my truck.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy.
So like I said, we had that little, pre-interview, and of all the companies kicking our tires, I didn't know anyone else, I didn't know anybody else by name. I didn't knew that was happening, but Heaven Hill was just a dream come true. So much respect for the program and so much respect for the family, and the products speak for themselves, right? And and from a selfish standpoint, it's literally down the street for me. So
yeah, how great is that? So great company, and hopefully, like I said, they just they bought you because they like you, they like what you're doing. So the best thing they can do is kind of be hands off, but give you some of that support behind the scenes, whether it's marketing or whatever you need to make the brand even bigger. I think that's very cool. So I like what's going on there.
Yeah, I was my boss's cover too in Kentucky, right? When they were showing up in Kentucky,
right?
And they didn't tell me what they were doing, but just after picking them up, and I pick them up in my truck, and they've got suits on. I worked for them for almost 5 years, and I'm like, I've never seen them in a suit.
Yeah. Huh.
He's taking the suit jacket off. He's in the backseat of my truck. He's like smoothing it all out. I'm like, okay.
Right. Let's talk.
And we had a side trip. I mean, we ran down to Castle and Key, because one of my bosses had never been there. The other one meets me there often when I'm running barrels there. But we're out for this outing, and then I have to take them back to Louisville, right, and drop them off. And it's like something. Yeah. So I tell them, they come here and they're telling me that, that the Heaven Hill people are coming to visit, and because they flew in and take me to dinner. I said, first, before I'm trying not to cuss tonight. I said, first, before.
Oh, you can cuss. Feel free. Be yourself.
Before you tell me anything, I said, you guys are terrible liars, and I don't know what's up, but this is what I suspect. And one of my bosses just handed me the wine list. He's here.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's been a wild ride. It's been it's been fun getting to know them, and keeping the secret from my family. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's tough. I really didn't tell anyone. Right. And and so my daughter and I, the Friday before the announcement was on a Tuesday. I was back in Kentucky, and I said, I sent her a message. I said, you know what, I'm going to scratch a couple of my meetings, and let's go over to the new Heaven Hill visitors experience, because she and I kept saying we were going to do that even before, all this happened. And she's like, yeah. So we go over there, and I buy all these bottles, which isn't unusual, right? And it's 11 o'clock in the morning, and And I'm like, let's go get a drink. She said, sure. And then we ended up buying some flights, right? And getting through all of that. And then I had lunch with a podcaster, and he'd picked up a couple more podcasters. And so I told her she's also entrenched in the bourbon industry and very knowledgeable. And so I said, why don't you just join us for lunch, right? So we went through all of that, and I called them about a half hour before the press release was going to drop. And for those of you that, some people know this about me and some people don't, my son-in-law was the executive chef for Maker's Mark for 5 years, and he still works with the Samuels family because they had a 5-year contract on them Star Hill project and are back out on their own. But my son-in-law was with Rob Samuels and Jane Bowie and the Maker's Mark legal team that night. My daughter's like, can I tell him? She's like, he's like I'm like, no. No. So I called her back just 10 minutes later, like it just dropped. You can tell him, you can call him and tell him. But
nice. So Lisa, as you look into the crystal ball, and of course I always say that the beer industry is ahead of the bourbon industry. It's a little bit more mature. So you see what's happened with craft beer. And now we're starting to see, some of the things happen in craft bourbon, like we saw in craft beer, acquisitions. Do you think this is just kind of the start, or are we going to see more of the bigger distilleries picking up some of the smaller distilleries like we've seen in the beer industry?
Steve, you probably have a better idea than I do. I mean, really, from all of your programming and everything, I really don't know. I think you're exactly right. I think that the big guys, it's really interesting when you're watching beer. I was still making wine at the time, when the craft breweries started getting bought up, and, everybody just big guys ignored the craft programs completely. They didn't change their product line. They just stayed the course. And then all of a sudden craft beer had 11% market share.
Right.
And everybody woke up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not even so much, I think, market share. It's just about, I think the bourbon industry is so driven by innovation right now. The whiskey industry in general is, the spirits industry, absolutely it is. And, I think that tapping into that, I think is probably something that a lot of people are interested in. It's a way to pick up some other brands and product lines that, are already established. So somebody else has already taken that first risk.
Right. Yeah.
It's not that it's not a risk buying a craft distillery, but, it's already been, if you've got, a proven track record and growth and everything, they already know that you've kind of gotten, tried out a little bit.
Yeah,
so,
it's a known entity. So yeah, for sure.
I think you can answer that probably better than I can. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be the case. I think that, and again, you think about the large distilleries, are they doing anything that's unique, or are they doing things that craft distilleries have already done, even with their current product lines? It seems like they're just letting the craft vet things out, whether that's different heirloom grains or different processes, and then they're doing them. So I think it makes sense for them to get into that business. I hope that they take that hands-off approach like you're talking about going on with Heaven Hill. I think that's important to let them retain their own identity. You don't want to have big heritage craft or big heritage distillery and then little mini versions of that. You want them to be different and bring to the table what they've always brought. So hopefully if that happens, I think it'll be a healthy bourbon industry for a long time, but we'll see. I definitely think there'll be more acquisitions and mergers because it just makes sense. It's a way for these distillers to diversify and to continue growth and make sure that their fingers on the pulse. So it's a thing that I definitely think we'll see more of. Give us a little bit of your career overview, because you have such a fun career. And
are we drinking? I know.
We're drinking. Sure. We're having a drink, so we're just sitting back. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's got a drink there. So.
Okay. Next question.
You don't want to share your career path, all the stuff you've done? Okay. You don't have to.
I can tell you my career path. My kids have said to me before, like, you've got to figure out a way to tell this, because it's it's a crazy road, right?
Right.
A little unconventional. I started as a commercial winemaker. I'd been working in the arts for years. I had founded and was running a costume company for a professional dance company in a kind of an underserved arts area, and did that for 6 years. We'd moved all over. My kid's dad is in manufacturing, and And we settled in back in Indiana, where we both grew up, not the same city, and spent, the next few years raising our kids there. And I kind of fell into that job. I was doing some other technical writing and things. And then this is so crazy. Some kindergarten moms of when my youngest was in kindergarten, said, they'd been working in this tasting room at Simmons Winery and outside of Columbus, Indiana. And they said, we are short people to harvest grapes. Do you want to harvest grapes? I'm like, sure.
This is the start of it, to harvesting grapes, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. And because they could not find any farm labor, right? And so we had the best time. But then I find myself costuming a full nutcracker, costuming a nutcracker for another company, and harvesting grapes. It was quite the fall. And years and years ago, I have, one of my friends growing up, his parents owned a winery in Bloomington, Indiana, Oliver Winery. And I was in their home when all the farm winery laws were getting passed, right? And so back then I got my head around the idea somebody could actually make wine, for a living. It was started out as his father's avocation, and his dad got all the laws passed because there were no Sunday sales in Indiana, and if it was a best kept secret for years that you could purchase wine, on Sundays in Indiana after all those laws got passed. And so that was kind of the initial kick for the Indiana wine industry. So I had that piece, way back when. And so I get done with Simmons. One of the former winemakers from there got wind that, that I was working at Simmons. And so he'd ask me every time I was in there, when are you going to come to work for me? And he actually called me this time. He's like, I want you to come in. I want to talk to you about something. And I go in and he's like, I want you to come to work for me. And I asked him later, I'm like, what made you, he goes, because he and I'd worked together years before at the Department of Natural Resources on the maintenance crews. That was my summer job in high school and college. And he's like, I knew you didn't mind getting dirty. I knew you didn't mind working hard. And, so anyway, he said, you just kept crossing my mind when I was thinking about, people that needed to, that I wanted to work with. And so, 3 days in, I knew that's what I was supposed to be doing. I ended up on the production crew with him and his son, his oldest of two sons, and myself, and spent the next 8 years there, apprenticing him, educating myself anywhere I could at, any kind of extension programs with Purdue or Virginia Tech, and then started saving my money and going out to University of California, Davis, and their intensives for fermentation and filtration and anything I could, but scraping my pennies together and, maybe sleeping an occasional night in my rental car, right, to make ends meet. And it just all made sense to me. I mean, I don't know why it all made so much sense. And so, after my youngest was graduating from high school, and some people we were buying grapes from, they had a 10-year-old established vineyard in Kentucky, said to my boss, we're not going to have grapes for you next year, and we're going to build a winery. And he said, you need to hire Lisa as your consultant, just out of the blue. We'd never discussed it. He said, you need to hire Lisa as your consultant. She's ready. And so I started consulting in Lebanon, Kentucky, and they offered me the position, the winemaker position there. So I moved the week that my youngest daughter went off to college, and haven't looked back. It was 11 years ago, and it's been a crazy ride. So I meet Steve Beam out of the gate, like just 6 weeks after I'm down there. He is literally down the road from me. Each other's extra set of hands in the evenings. And
oh, nice.
Yeah. I had a background in fermentation, so I was able to help out there, when they run into some troubles and things. And so and he helped me, oh my gosh, some crazy stuff. I mean, bitter cold, the TTB, I had to move all this wine from one facility to the other. And God bless him, he was in there with me. All this wine, because the TTB only gave me 48 hours to get it all moved. So so we did, and then the winery owners went through a real spectacular divorce, and I saw the writing on the wall, because that unfortunately it happens in the wine industry. Once a divorce happens, wineries tend to go out of business. And so I saw the writing on the wall, booked a ticket to Sonoma. I thought, well, I'm going to have to go to Sonoma and work a harvest and live in a campground or something. And Paul and Steve Beam took me to dinner 24 hours after I resigned the winery and offered me a full-time job at Limestone Branch.
Nice. Very cool.
And I'd wanted to learn to distill. I'd gotten wiggled my way on the legislative committee in Kentucky, because at that time, you couldn't have a still, because I was thinking of me making brandy, right? And never had to get that far down the road, but I was making brandy bases for Steve. I was fermenting fruit and things for him for some client work that he was doing, and we were transferring it down to the distillery and running it. Steve, you get a couple phone calls from me. It's like, what are you doing? He goes, this stuff stinks. Just finished distilling it. It was delicious. It was cherry. It was actually cherry brandy, but so anyway, that's how we got started, and that's how I got started. And then I was with Limestone Branch under 3 years, and Lexco purchased them, and I got fired, and I was the number 2 guy, right? And so I got let go, and immediately had an offer in South Carolina, and I passed on it, but then they countered with consulting, and so I was going back and forth to South Carolina, and then another really amazingly wonderful craft distillery ended up calling me because they found out that I was, looking for more permanent work in Kentucky. And I was just stunned that they called, but, craft distilling was just exploding. Right. And so they gave me an offer, and I was getting ready to accept it. And Ted Huber calls me, and I'd known Ted for years because of winemaking. And I didn't know he'd added a grain distillery. And he said, Lisa, don't accept that until you can talk to me. And I was going to accept the offer on a Friday. I'm like, well, I'm going to accept it on a Friday. He said, let's talk on Thursday. There's a snowstorm, right? So he's like, just please put them off until, Dana and I can talk to you on Sunday. And he knocked the other offer out of the park, not just monetarily, but with what I was going to be able to do there.
Yeah.
And sure enough, so I stayed there for 1.5 years, thought I'd stay there forever because they're 2 of the nicest people that walk the face of the earth. And, Drew Colesveen, the master distiller for Willett, happened. He's a buddy of my son-in-law's, and he saw me at a family thingy and said, Lisa, I've been meaning to call you. If, somebody we've been in business with on and off over the years, is going to build the first craft distillery in Nelson County, Kentucky. And, I think you're a good fit. And so I, went back and forth about whether I was going to accept it. My daughter said, the only reason you're thinking about not accepting this is because you don't want to tell Ted and Dana goodbye.
Right.
Okay, you're accurate. All right. So crazy stuff. So I go there for 1 year. I was not the best match personality wise. And so I decided it was time for me to go out on my own. And I started Saints and Monsters Consulting, maybe named after my grandsons, but let's please not my daughter. And so I went out on my own, and I had 2 clients right away. And my third client was Sampson and Surrey. Robert Furness Rowe called me. They found my name through the George Washington Project. I've been the senior consulting distiller there now for 6 years this month.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. 6 years next week. And so because of the success we had there, my name got tossed around a little bit, and that's how he found me. But my boss used to run Bacardi internationally. He was president of Bacardi Asia and president of Bacardi North and South America, and all the things, right? And he's British and just a real charmer. And so anyway, I tell him no at first, because he's like, I need somebody to move to New York City. I'm like, I am not cut out to live in New York City. Here I sit. And so anyway, he counters with consulting again, right? He's like, well, let's just bring you on as a consultant. I agreed to that. But he also, in the meantime, too, he's like, I'm just 3 weeks later, he calls me, because I really got to talk to you. I'm going to fly out to Bardstown and take you to dinner. And we went to dinner, and 10 minutes into dinner, I thought, I'm going to go to work for this guy, right? He's saying all the right things. He's telling me how much stock they're purchasing, how much stock they've already purchased, what the stock was.
Did he mention the exposed brick? Was that a selling point at any point during the thing? There's a lot of exposed brick.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's just been crazy ride, right? And so then a year later, they asked me to dismiss my other clients. I came on as director of distilling for all of our brands in our portfolio. There were 5 at the time, not 6, and spent 6 months doing that. But I didn't have time to spend time at any of the other distilleries. I mean, Widow Jane needed full attention. And so he called me 3.5 years ago and said, he was president of Widow Jane. He said, I want to transfer my title to you. And, I want you to move to New York and be president and head distiller. And I said yes, because this project, there was just nothing. I've had other offers, and there's just not a project that matches this project. I can't, there's something about it that I have grown to love very much. And my team is remarkable. I put my team up against anybody in the industry. People come and find out what we're doing, how much growth we've had. And there's 15 of us total for everything. Tours, running the bar. I have cross-trained everyone, even my bartenders. I've bought them steel-toed boots, and they all are forklift certified.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's no, because we just have one track after another, and if somebody else needs to hop on the forklift, everybody's good to go, right? And because of that, when barrel trucks come and everything, it's all hands on deck. We get the group text message, and everybody hits the ground running, and we unload as fast as we can, being in the city, and that's how we make it work.
Yeah. To this day, you still do consulting work and stuff like that. So what would somebody come to you if they're what kind of problems are they having where they'd say, hey, Lisa, can you help me out with this?
Yeah, I no longer do consulting work just because I don't have the time. And it feels a little disloyal to my company. They've been so good to me. I do, of course, I don't take pay at Mount Vernon. I'm fully consulting there, unpaid consultant there, but I always answer phone calls. If somebody calls and they're stuck or they're upset, or I've had people calling and near tears and can't get the conversions in their mash, or something like that. And I've been there personally. So it's like, my mentor is a gentleman named Dave Sherrick, and Dave is the gentleman that put Woodford Reserve back together, right? He's been at Seagram's and Wild Turkey and with Brown Foreman, and he's in his 70s, and he's still, got his brands he's working with, right? And I told him, I said, I can never repay you. And I know it sounds cliche, but I said, I promise I'll always pay it forward. So if someone calls me and they're stuck, or they need an introduction, or a lead on a piece of equipment or something like that, I've been there. I'm still there. Some days I have to, some days I have to turn around and call those people. So, that's what I love so much about the distilling industry. The winemaking was fun. Winemakers were great, but they didn't share like distillers do. There's just no secrets in distilling. And I love that very much. Early on, my boss coming from rum, I was running all those barrels at Castle and Key, and he's like, I don't know, how much we're going to share about running those barrels there. And I said, Robert, well, there's no secrets in whiskey. I can keep my mouth shut. But, and we had 9 women come into the distillery in Brooklyn, and they're all from Kentucky. And they said, oh my gosh, we were, they've got Broadway tickets and everything else. And they took time to come to the distillery, which I loved very much. And they said, we were at Castle and Key and we saw Widow Jane barrels, and we're like, what is that all about? It's in Brooklyn. And they saw the Brooklyn on our stencil. And so they looked us up. They came and took the tour. So I told my boss, I said, see.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. Oh, another person that we all know in the industry in Kentucky, he's got his cell phone down by his leg, and he's taking a picture of the barrel head. He goes, going to talk to me about this, Yes, I'm going to talk to you about it.
No secrets in this industry.
Yeah.
Well, now it's an exciting time because it is now time for something we added just this season. It's the Mcnew Question. So in the middle of the interview, Mcnew asked a question. She's got to be excited about this, Lisa, and you can verify this. I've been trying to get you on here for a while. It just hasn't worked out. We had a whole thing of going back and forth, and Mcnew, but has been telling me from season 1, we got to get Lisa Wicker. We got to get. And I'm like, I'm friends with Lisa. It's just our schedules, and for a while.
She knows from my responses on her social media posts, I'm a fan of hers. So
nice. Yeah, I'm such a big fan of yours, and I'm like, Lisa commented on my thing. It makes my day every time.
So there you go. Here's your moment, Mcnew. All right.
And I feel like I should have came up with a better question, but it's a 2-parter. What is your favorite part of New York, and what is your favorite part of Kentucky when you're living there?
Gosh. It'd be a cop-out for me to say the people and the people.
Yeah, I can't say the people. That's a given.
New York, if you start breaking it down, is actually just a whole lot of villages stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that because so many neighborhoods still have such distinctive personalities. My neighborhood here, Italian American, right? And the best pizza place in all of New York City, which is not just my opinion, as lots of people, is literally a 5-minute walk from my apartment. And yeah, but like I said, there's too many to explore. There's a billboard, and when you come into Brooklyn, it says if you eat in a different restaurant every day in Brooklyn, it's going to take you 19 years.
That's wild. I believe it too, but that is wild to think about.
Yeah. So I still love that there's so much. It's just not homogenized. It doesn't look like one of the crossroads. It's got the Home Depot and the Starbucks, and where you see them all over the country. Things are, the neighborhoods here are still a lot of mom and pop restaurants, mom and pop hardware stores, old time hardware stores. I love walking up to Court Street to me, and you walk in and it's just, old mom and pop places, right, that are still in business here. And I love that part. It reminds me of my childhood. Kentucky, oh my gosh, my heart. I am a transplant to Kentucky, but I swear I lived in Kentucky in a previous life. I love the culture. I love the fact that there's old horse money and bourbon and the moonshining culture and the music and the food and the terrain. And I love Kentucky. It's just, so it's the favorite part is all of it, I guess.
Kentucky does have that home feeling. Like when I cross over the river, I'm just like, oh, it feels nice, even though I'm from Indiana, but Kentucky feels like a home too.
And I'm a Hoosier too by birth, right? And same thing. It's just a remarkable place. I'm hooked.
Yeah, I love it too. And I've never lived in Kentucky at all. And but it does feel like home when you go there. People are just so nice and accepting. And, there's certainly plenty of people that do what I do in Kentucky. And it's always nice that they welcome me just like I'm a native son there. It's cool. So I really do like that place for sure. And
it's sincere.
Yeah.
It really is. And I'm just so surprised how, like I said, kind everyone is. And there's good people and bad people everywhere, right? But right. I live on a dream street, right? I mean, our neighbors are just the best.
Known entities, yes, for sure. So distilling is very science forward. There's artistry in distilling, but it's science forward, I would say. But blending is, again, there's some science into blending, but it's more artistry forward. So tell us how you create the perfect blend, because you certainly get to do a lot of that with Widow Jane. So tell us about that.
Well, today we have a product called Decadence that we rebarrel in Crown Maples, maple syrup barrels. And I did the base blend on it. And, my thing with it is that the base blend has to be a standalone blend. Not something I'm trying to cover up, but the balance on that one, I need a little bit more alcohol heat. I need a little bit more wood tannin and a little bit more oakiness. I actually need some barrels that are a little bit over extracted in that blend. So with something like that, like our flagship is the 10-year-old, and it's a 5-barrel small batch, right? And I've done 600 batches.
Wow.
5-barrel small batch. And so transferring that, some of it has gotten to a place where it's muscle memory. When we draw down barrels, we don't just draw down. I don't cherry pick barrels because I need to be able to use all of our stock, and I don't want to get to the end, and not the end, but where I don't have any barrels left. So, when I'm sorting samples out, so like Decadence is 18 to 21 barrels, and so I start sorting it's Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So I'll just start sorting. I go and I just taste barrel after barrel. They bring me 50 ml samples. And so then I'll just start putting them together. Like, okay, this one, I don't like the mid palate note on it. So here's all the ones I don't like the mid palate note. It's really pronounced and I'm not crazy about it. And then oh, here are all my cherry bombs over here, right? These are spectacular cherry bombs. Here's my, my leather tobacco row. And then, and I do that with each state, right? And depending on Kentucky, I've got so many different Kentucky barrels, right, from different places. And so those are sometimes my wild cards about how I can balance the blends out by adding the Kentucky to that Indiana and Tennessee. And so that's round one, right? Going through all of them like that. And then I've got these clumps everywhere, right? And then round two is starting to divide out, what I need for the balance in it, right? And then round three is me taking today I had six, it doesn't always work out this way, but I had 6 Indiana, I had 6 Tennessee, and I had 5 Kentuckys. And then I had another wild card in Indiana that there's a whole long story behind it, but It's like, that's actually, I took a bunch of barrels and vatted those. And so I have, a different sample of it. And so then I take each one of those. So I've got my 4 cylinders and I'm taking each one of those then, and then tasting that to make sure that there's not a barrel that's throwing something out of balance. And if there is, then I only have to work with those 6 barrels to get those back into balance again. Right. And then after that, then I combine those 2, I combine these 2, and then I combine all 4 together. I cap it, I let it sit, I taste it against the current product, taste it against, some of our other product lines. Sometimes I'll taste it against somebody else's whiskey, because I don't want to get house palate either. I want to make sure that, we're still hitting the mark where we need to hit the mark. So, and I've got the best team in the whole world. And so, they bring me a gazillion samples and I can go back out, which I did, and said, can you bring me like 7 or 8 more Kentuckys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Is the toughest component of it known when it's done? Because it seems like you could forever just keep kind of reworking it and be like, well, a little of this, a little of that. The toughest has to be like, no, we're not doing anything else. This is it.
COVID taught me not to overthink.
Okay.
With COVID, March 2020, I had to move a couple projects up. My boss is like, if we can get these on, get these on the truck, because everything was falling apart. We didn't know what was going to happen, right? If we can get these up and out. And one of them was Vaults and one of them was Decadence, our maple syrup finish. And I had to stop overthinking it and put them together, right? Yeah. And so the Decadence had already been barreled and the maple syrup barrels, it was ready to come out, but I was nervous about it. And, it's like, I just got to do this thing. I just need to have tunnel vision, and it has to just be, I have to stop overthinking it. And we're great, and guess what? That Vaults is my highest scoring whiskey I've ever produced.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah, that was such a good bottle.
Thank you. Yeah. I learned the lesson the hard way. Right. I mean, so, but it's like, oh, okay. All right. You just have to hit that mark and not, try to shake off. I'm nervous at everything I blend, right? Even to Decadence this morning, it's like people spend their hard-earned money. 11 years ago in this business, I was making less than minimum wage, right? And no benefits. So it's like people have spent their hard-earned money on this whiskey, and I don't want people to be disappointed. If they're disappointed, I want it just because it's not their cup of tea. I don't want it to be because they think the quality's not there, or, it's just not what they wanted to pick, but they don't, but they still saw some value in it. So, yeah.
So when you do what you do, Lisa, are you always kind of experimenting for maybe future products down the road? And if so, is there any that you can talk about right now?
Everything's always in work in progress. I'll tell you what happened is that some of it got pushed aside. I mean, I'm always tinkering. Today I had wood samples all over, and somebody's like, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm trying to get these organized. And my team's looking at it like, sure. I got wood samples on top of my, my cabinets, and I got stuff underneath the cabinets, but we had no idea the brand would take off like it did. And so it's everything we can do for the innovation that we have done so far, to keep on top of that. We grew 60% the year before last, and we've grown another 60% on top of that.
Wow.
Yeah, the growth has been phenomenal. Thank you, everyone. It's been but so it's beyond our, my personal wildest dreams is what's happened. But and like I said, we're even working to improve the quality of what we have already. When somebody comes back and you realize that a bad cork went into a bottle, or something else is askew, we're working really hard to continuous improvement is kind of our thing, right? It's like, okay, we did this really well. What can we do better the next time? We really don't rest on that.
Well, one more serious question before we get to the fun. We always end with the fun one, but one more serious one. And it's something that's going on big time. And I've certainly heard from a lot of my craft distillery buddies that, the issue with barrels, there's definitely a barrel shortage going on right now, and they're scrambling. What can we do? So, what do you think the impact of this is going to be on the industry?
That is the question of the day. I took my team. American Craft Spirits Association convention was in Louisville this year in December, and so all of my production team had never been to Kentucky in a bourbon capacity before, and so we went on. we skipped out on workshops one day, and I took them on this epic trip we started at Nord's Bakery in Louisville and ended up, at Woodford Reserve after dark, but we took them everywhere, Castle and Key. I took them to our cooperage. I took them by our farmer, because we do grow corn in Kentucky, our heirloom corn, right, for our baby that I'm laying down. And so I took them, but we went to Zach Cooperage, and we were there probably an hour and a half or almost. They loved it, right? Well, maybe even 2 hours. And so I was talking to Bruce for a while, but it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Their costs have gone through the ceiling, their cost on the steel for hoops. And it's just, so it's not even just the wood shortage. Right now there's a wood shortage, and, we're protected. I have a good relationship with Bruce and Zach of Zach Cooperage, and, they'll do everything they can, but that doesn't mean that if they don't have trees that they can't get
right.
Right. I don't know. I've got a couple craft distillery forum things that I'm on, that are kind of, just memberships just open so you can have these kind of honest conversations. And I've got a couple buddies that are well established, one on the West Coast, another one in the central part of the country. And they're like, can anybody spare 150 barrels?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like all the cooperages, you call them and they're booked through 2022. They're completely booked.
And I don't know if how much that plays into somebody, because owning a distillery is, because whiskey is so hot, American bourbon, the fact that I think there's still a lot of people that want to get in the game. And, I don't know that that's something that they think through right away is, am I going to have a hard time finding barrels? And they should, because it's very tough right now.
Well, and that's the reason cash flow product, when people say, about, that distillery sources bourbon or that they only make moonshine. It's like, look, if you're starting out in craft distilling, there's like 3 business plans. You either source and then wait on your own product, or you release white spirit, and there's some love, I've done a lot of that, right? Or you have more money than God, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I can't give advice to people that I don't know, but if I was, starting out a craft distillery right now, I'd probably pivot and really concentrate on white spirits right now until that, or think about producing some whiskey and keeping it in bulk until you could find the barrels to, barrel it in. But who knows when that's going to be, right? So, I really don't know what the answer is. I think, one of the things that's been talked about too, it's, nobody's organized to do this yet, but, it might be time to start thinking about changing legislation or the definition of bourbon a little bit, to say that if a bourbon barrel is completely disassembled, completely refinished, and reassembled, that can still be considered a new cask.
Right.
If it's refired.
Scrape and refire. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, even from, because, the numbers just don't match up too. There's so many bourbon barrels that are going to hit the market, and I don't know that Scotch industry can absorb all of them. Right. So I think that's something to really consider, as long as the barrels are properly, disassembled and reassembled. There's already cooperages in the United States doing that, right? So
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, the last question is always a fun one. So the last question is, let's talk kids breakfast cereal here. So the old days of Lucky Charms and Tony the Tiger, all that kind of stuff. What is your favorite of those? And it can't be some sort of shredded fiber adult cereal. What was your favorite kid cereal?
You already said it, Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charms.
A second to come up with that answer. Yeah, Lucky Charms, because you have got to eat all the dried marshmallows up first,
Yes.
Yeah. So my kids, I was one of those moms, right, when they're growing up, all the homemade cookies and no sugar cereal and all that kind of stuff. So my oldest daughter, who's got a food science degree from Purdue, she gets to college. Her college rebellion was like eating Cool Whip out of the container and all and buying Lucky Charms and eating all the marshmallows.
Yeah.
Is what I did when I was a kid. So it's like, oh, well, I guess that's genetic,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And your sisters would be so mad. It's like you ate all the marshmallows out of the Lucky Charms, right?
Yeah. My daughter did the same thing. She liked Lucky Charms too, and she would just eat the marshmallows. I'm like, that's like 3% of what's in the box. She'd go through and they all be gone, and then we have to eat the regular.
Her college rebellion. Even the weird thing is, she was studying food science. And I'm like, what all the chemicals are? And she was like, I know. I'm good.
Still good.
They're just good. They're just good. All right. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. Can you stick around and keep it to them? That sounds good. We'll bring you back at the end to share your social media and all that. Okay. All right. Let's hear it for Lisa Wicker, gang. Let's hear it for Lisa. Hey-o. All right. What we'll do next, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking to Heather Bean. We'll do that in just a few. Let's talk about the people who make these shows happen. First up is the ABV Barrel Shop. The ABV Barrel Shop is owned and operated by Steve Akeley and Jim Fosnot in the greater St. Louis area. It is the most unique shopping experience in the world of bourbon, as the ABV Barrel Shop only focuses on single barrels. We aren't open just yet, but our plan is to have the most diverse single barrel offerings from our many friends in the world of bourbon. By signing up for a weekly email, you will know our entire inventory we have on hand. In addition to single barrels, we'll have a tasting bar and a gift shop featuring logo merchandise for both the shop and the ABV network, as well as a full curriculum of bourbon education classes. Additionally, we'll use the gift shop to feature products from our partners in the world of bourbon, companies like Art Eatable Chocolates and Old Man Bay Signs. Head over to ABV Barrel Shop to sign up for our email and text distribution list so you can stay in the know. Hi, this is Steve Akeley, owner of the ABV Network. We're sponsored by the Stave and Thief Society. This is where you, a bourbon enthusiast, can expand your knowledge and emerge a bourbon steward. In 2017, I completed my Executive Bourbon Steward certification. It's the most comprehensive bourbon certification program available and connects you with an expansive network of bourbon enthusiasts and professionals. Check out the full listing of in-person and online certifications and join the society today by enrolling at staveandthief.com. Okay, let's talk about Neely Family Distillery. In 2018, I met Royce Neely at an industry event. He started appearing on our shows, and we became friends during my frequent visits to Kentucky. Today, he's leading the way for young distillers making their mark on the bourbon industry. A visit to Neely Family Distillery combines family history, a look at what makes their products unique, and of course, a tasting through their whiskeys, moonshines, and creams. Check them out at NeelyFamilyDistillery.com and visit them in Sparta, Kentucky.
This is Kathy Cool, and I can't wait to pet your goat. And you're listening to the ABV Network.
Well, our next guest is, with an industry filled with chemists, engineers, reform lawyers, owning distilleries. It's safe to say that the bourbon industry is filled with smart individuals. But we may be talking to the smartest here tonight. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Heather Bean. Hey, Heather, how you doing?
Okay, I have a major case of imposter syndrome right now. It's what I have. I just listened to Lisa's pedigree, and I got nothing.
Oh, no, because our first question is going to take you through this, because you have such an interesting background in academics. And just start us out. Tell us, how old were you when you started college?
14.
14, yes, like all of us.
But I didn't drink a drop until I was 28. But believe me, I think I've made up for it since then with being a craft distiller and such. So I don't know. At this point, I think I've just managed to, normalize my strangeness.
And how many degrees do you have?
Well, troublingly, only mechanical engineering and chemical engineering and chemical engineering. Anyway, I know people who are so much higher achievers than I was, but I was, I needed to go mountain biking and skiing and rock climbing, and I don't know. I had other problems than just getting degrees.
What's it like being a 14-year-old taking a class with someone who is at least 18 and maybe up to 22, 23, 24?
Yeah, so that's actually strange. My friends were, well, I lied about my age for starters, so nobody knew how old I was. I was, tall, something. Right. Anyway, no one knew how old I was, and most of my friends, bizarrely, were like, the non-traditional age students on the other end. They were like, 28, 30, impossibly old to a 14-year-old. But yeah. For whatever reason, I seem to gravitate older in the friend sense. So, yeah, I don't know why that didn't seem
socially
weird.
you were okay. You didn't say your real
Oh
age.
no,
And
that
you
was
were fine.
no, that was fabulous to me. Go to college, just start lying about it. Nobody knows. Just fit right in. Just like move on. No, that was fantastic for me actually, because when I was earlier in school, people knew who I was, and they tended to, treat me maybe differently for that, and then I could just finally blend in and say nothing's weird here. And
Right.
the hilarious thing about that is, later in life, I met some of my old professors, and they said, "Yeah, we knew there was a 14-year-old in the classes, but we didn't know who it was."
Oh,
And
okay.
none of them ever guessed it was me.
Oh, nice.
They picked a load of other people apparently, which I thought was hilarious.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I enjoy, talking to you, conversation, and yeah, it's so interesting when you're, because you even keep like a different schedule. You're up late at night. Like if I email you, the response might come at 3 a.m. So
And it can go both ways. That could be I got up, or it could be I went to bed.
So yeah. So it's just fascinating to me. So I'm barely scraping through school, and then to hear that stuff's just crazy to me and unbelievable. So very very cool stuff, Heather. So once you graduate, you got all these engineering degrees and that kind of stuff. And how do you decide to get into distillery? How does this come about?
So I was a research and development engineer at Hewlett Packard for 15 years. Mm-hmm. And this was kind of in the 90s through a huge number of tumultuous periods in tech. And it was in the early 2000s. Outsourcing was huge. My job was a lot less fun than it used to be. And, my job went from a lot of sort of interesting engineering work to a lot of telecons with India at, 2 a.m. or 5 a.m. This may inform my hours to this day. But, yeah, I kind of always say that drove me to drink, and being a good engineer, I just decided I needed to support my habit in other ways.
Right.
So I decided to become a craft distiller. I used to work in Portland, Oregon a lot, and inkjet printers of all things. And I got to see some of the early craft distilleries there in the early 2000s. And, I got to thinking, heck, I could do that. And I'm having a really bad time right now. So I kind of quit and took the plunge, which I can't say is a great idea, but it's been a fun idea. Right. So far, so good.
It's worked. Yeah. Now, I've never been to your place. We'll talk a little bit about that later. I will get to visit your facility this summer, but you moved.
Looking forward to.
Yeah. You had what was, I would say, again, if just seeing it in pictures, kind of very industrial feel, very cool looking distillery. But now you've really gone industrial. You moved to an old grain elevator, right?
Yeah. I would almost say it's less industrial.
Okay.
It's really cool, actually. But the old place was just kind of a big concrete block. It was an old concrete factory, actually.
Okay.
And super industrial. Turned out to be really industrial. We were just renting that place, and just as we were leaving, like the ceiling was falling in. Those are not necessarily features you want in your tasting room. So yeah, we were looking for places to buy because we were sort of confronted with that situation that I think lots of people are. It's either you're going to, step up and buy some real estate and commit to it, or it's time to go back and get a job somewhere else. We were kind of confronted with, is this a hobby that we tried and we want to keep doing it, or is this it? And also, in addition to the ceiling falling in, that building had been sold, and new landlords, it's a long, it's a common story. So we were able to actually find this grain elevator, which is kind of right on the downtown strip, but kind of, it's got good bones, as you say to most fixer-upper houses.
Right.
But a kind of an empty shell, and kind of has taken a lot of work. But I think we got one of the last good real estate deals in this area. So it's actually been fabulous for us. And in a way, our tasting room is so much nicer. It has heating and air conditioning, and in the old place, it was just kind of like, well, it's the temperature it is, marginally changed by maybe something. But so I think actually our tasting room is a lot more comfortable than it ever was. And we're working on the distillery. I just got some underfloor heating going in our major production area. And I do have to say it is glorious, fabulous.
Well, a distillery build out actually kind of fits into who you are, because you like building stuff. And I'm talking big projects where saws, torches, welding, all that stuff plays into who you are. So this has to be kind of fun for you, isn't it?
This is fun for me. And I have to say, I question myself on literally an hourly basis that I've tried to do so much of this project myself, and with obviously with a lot of help from my friends who are mostly also crazy engineers. But I've put more of a priority on just doing this project kind of piece by piece and doing it the way I want it done than I have with, let's just get it done and keep running a distillery. So it's been, a challenging process of figuring out, what's the priority here. So anyway.
Very cool.
We're getting there.
You're getting there. I can't wait to see it. So it'll be fun. Now, there's nobody who watches something called the Bourbon Talk Show on YouTube and is just like, I'm just kind of, a casual bourbon fan. The people who take the time to watch us, they're really into bourbon. They want to know history and everything about it and production and all that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit about your operation, what sort of still you use, and what do you think that the things that make Syntax unique?
So, I'm like at a crazy break point right here, to tell you the truth. We use all local grain, straight out of northern Colorado, and I think that's one of the big things that makes us unique. We have never sourced alcohol that we did not make. All of our bourbon that's in barrels, we're so tiny. We're nothing on the scale of what Lisa was talking about. We're so little. So we have about 100 barrels in the basement, and that is literally things I all made on the fills I built at our first location. We have just purchased a Holstein still, which is this giant, sexy copper beast that actually used to be in Colorado Gold Distillery, but they lost their lease during the COVID times, and I was able to get that still. And I have assembled it, and I'm just about to turn it on, maybe even within the week. So I will be using completely different equipment, and I hate to put it so bluntly, but I have no idea what I'm doing right now. So that'll be fun.
Well, that's how you, learning on the job.
I'm used to it. If I knew what I was doing, I might be bored for a minute or not. I think I need a vacation. But anyway, so yes, I will be running on all new equipment, and so this will be interesting. I'm sure that my first few batches will not be worthy of anything fabulous, but of course, I'm looking to keep going with, our bourbon has won a whole number of awards, and it's very tasty.
Very tasty. Yeah.
Having a little. And so, my goal initially is just how can I replicate this on completely larger, better equipment than stills I built 10 years ago.
Hey, you heard the earlier interview too. If you get stuck, call Lisa.
I think so.
It's not for free. So yeah, she's not in the consulting anymore, but she will help you out. And by the way, if you have to use,
it's going the other way around. Remember I said earlier, sometimes I guess go the other way. Yeah.
No, you know what I call myself? The jackass of all trades, and that's completely true.
That's great.
I don't really know what I'm doing, but somehow I'm tenacious. I'll eventually sort it.
You're one of the true characters from the industry too, because you always talk about it's lucky you own the company because as such, as the company owner, you are by de facto the HR person. You're lucky you don't have an HR person overseeing you.
No, yeah, that's excellent.
That would not end well, right?
Okay, when I was in the corporate world, I recall my boss once saying that like the aisle, the cubicles, the aisle I was in, they called it the pirate ship, and they said that was my fault. So, apparently, I swore a lot and encouraged perhaps
you
less
just created
than,
an atmosphere. Yes, yeah,
yeah, and that was apparently me. So anyway,
yeah, there you go. Well, now is a very exciting time for you because it's time for a Mcnew question. Mcnew, you're up. What do you got?
I feel like we need some sound effects or something on these questions.
I know we need to work on production.
Gotta work on that.
So Mcnew question, Mcnew.
But Heather, you are a person of so many interests, so many talents. If you weren't distilling, what would be the dream job? What would you be doing that's going to keep you this entertained?
Oh dear. Let me think about that for a minute. You know, back in the day when I was like, 20 years younger, I would have loved to be like a mountain bike racer or a, ski racer or something. I was a total adrenaline junkie. And somehow I think grain elevators have gotten my adrenaline junkiness out. I did learn to ride a motorcycle like a year ago, so now I can get my adrenaline junkiness out that way a little bit.
Yeah.
So I would have gone for something adrenaline based, probably.
Adrenaline based, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We might have seen you like in the Olympics or something like that. You never know. You could have been.
Except I was a desk jockey engineer.
Okay.
So, well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've always had I should be a Gemini, but I'm not. But.
You should be friends with our buddy from Colorado, Lenny Eckstein. He's big outdoors, likes all that kind of stuff.
I am friends with Lenny Eckstein.
Hey, that's
actually.
good. Yeah,
now that you mention it.
Yeah.
No, we're both kayakers. And that's how I met him. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're both kayakers. And we have kayaked before together on a few occasions.
He even does something called squirt boat. I don't even know what that is, but he's talked about it, the squirt boat.
Oh yeah, those are
little ones that
they're very tiny and they go underwater.
Yeah. So sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, they're definitely. I'm more like down the river, but yeah, the squirt boats are they're their own thing.
Yeah. Yep. So I was looking around on your website, Heather, and I saw a product I hadn't seen before. So tell me about Wellhead Whiskey. What's going on with that?
So that's actually kind of a collaboration product. That's kind of the brainchild of a buddy of mine who is, man, he's a long-term oil landman. The gas and oil industry is just huge here in Eastern Colorado. It's the massive driver of our economy. And anyway, really interesting dude. He was originally like New York City policeman turned oil landman in Colorado and writes children's books. Anyway, he had this idea to do something for the, sort of the oil industry type thing. That's a more affordable whiskey, a little younger, mixes well. And he came up with the artwork and I said, sure. And we kind of have a, sort of gentle person's deal to produce it. It's not a strict up contract sort of thing. Anyway. So it is a fun product. We kind of play around with it a fair bit, and it's usually typically a mostly wheat whiskey with a little bit of barley in it, maybe a little bit of corn. It's a lot of blending. It's kind of always a blending exercise. But yeah, the Wellhead whiskey has been great for us actually, and people are really fond of it. So it's kind of one of our first forays off of our major Syntax brand, and it's been good for that. And he has a bunch of other ideas. I'm trying to remember some of them. There was Roughneck Rum, I think he wants to do. So there were some other oil field themed things that he was into. But But yeah, the Wellhead's been actually really good for us because it gives us, kind of a different avenue than our standard Syntax brand. So to try some things out for sure.
We're still early enough in the year here, so we can talk about plans for this year. So what's kind of going on for Syntax Spirits in 2022?
So the major thing for us is just get production back rolling and normal, and finish the last bits on our building. To be honest, I really thought we'd be at this point a year ago, but then COVID and things and such and whatnot. And I know that's literally everyone's story, but we have basically one room in our building left to finish, one major room, and at least we know what we're doing at this point. It turns out that redoing a 115-year-old grain elevator takes a lot of figuring out how to do it. Mm-hmm. and then a lot of hoping that I didn't do the math wrong and nothing fell in through the basement or something, which so far so good. No concrete has ended up in the basement when. So anyway, it's been a very interesting couple of years, and COVID has definitely set us back. But yeah, this year is just going to be kind of normalizing production again and just kind of getting back to some kind of schedule, which we have not had the luxury of having. Because it's been a couple of years now where we're literally just bottling things out of our existing inventory. And we pretty much shut down wholesale sales because of that, because we're not backfilling, because we've been remodeling instead. Right. It is a shame we couldn't stay at our old location while we were doing the remodeling, but that just didn't work out. So it's been, we've just been trying to supply our tasting room, do limited wholesale sales, and we want to, get back to normal, get out of that little hole we've been in. So.
Yeah. And I know when it comes to, a job like yours and as well as being a company owner, there's nothing that is per se a normal day. But, if we had to kind of take a look at that 30,000 foot level of, what is a kind of a normal day for you, what would you say would be how your day goes? Knowing that, and again, you sometimes are known to be a bit of a night owl. What's your day like?
Oh man, I wish I had a normal day. Well, I guess I would say that in the morning, I get up and it's pretty much always sit down at the computer, delete about, 120 spam emails, see what I actually have to pay attention to, respond to that if I have to. And if it's a day I'm working out in the building, then hopefully it's get started and, do a job. And with any luck, I have, a buddy to help me out that day. And then, we'll get that job hopefully done, although usually, something goes wrong because inevitably. And then usually in the evening, it's kind of back to sit at the computer again, see if anything urgent has come in on the email or do some books or things like that. I'd like to say that there was any glamour in this, but not right now. Right. And then sometimes I get to be on talk shows.
Sure. That's a highlight, though, right? That's a highlight.
It is 100% a highlight. It's wonderful. I get to interact with other people this way. Well, and also I have to give major props to my partner, Jeff, who has been taking over a lot of the bartending duties. We used to have 3 bartenders in our tasting room / cocktail bar, and for various reasons, we lost all but one of those during the COVID years, just because, well, one was a nurse, and you can figure that we weren't paying the same as traveling nurses can get, right. As it turns out. So, no, she was fabulous. And another guy graduated with his engineering degree, and also, as you can figure, we don't pay as well as, you can get with an engineering degree. Which is something I have to think about daily, but anyway, not important. So anyway, and so my partner, Jeff, my business partner, has been doing a lot of the bartending and a lot of managing the bar. So that's been fabulous. And I occasionally have to do that if he is busy, but I always have to tell people, I'm not the real bartender, and I'm very sorry. And you'll just have to put up with me telling you funny stories because I won't be nearly as great at bartending.
I think you've got good stories. You just gotta get past some of that, and you definitely.
Yeah, no, we are just we're the littlest and the tiniest, and I don't know. I want to say the scrappiest, but we're kind of very little, and we've gone the direction which is kind of do it ourselves and keep it under, well, maybe I'm a control freak. It's like keep it under our control for now and not risk everything by trying to take a lot of money on board and things like that. So we'll see how that goes. But we're kind of keeping it small and working it, getting it bigger.
Nice. Well, we're just about 3 months out now. Me and Bo Cumberland, my filmmaking buddy and partner in that side of the business, we are going to be out in Colorado making a movie called Colorado Whiskey. I think there's such a fantastic scene there. It often gets overlooked. Everything gets, overshadowed by Kentucky. It's everything in bourbon is Kentucky, which is great. They deserve it. They make fantastic products. But we also like to be able to tell the stories of other things that are going on. So we're going to be telling the story of 6 Colorado distilleries, yours being one of those. And then ultimately kind of telling also the bigger picture of Colorado whiskey. Why is it such a great place to make whiskey? Why is there this fun and eclectic scene with all these different distillers with different takes on things? And you're part of that. So tell us a little bit from your perspective, what you think of being involved in that project.
Actually, I love Colorado, and this goes back to, I think, what Lisa was saying exactly, is that people are just really lovely to work with. People ask me for help. I ask people for help. It's just a great collective consciousness, and people are just very nice and kind about offering and receiving help. So I think it's just fabulous that everybody has such a nice collective culture. It's not like what I've witnessed in some, other fields where people are withholding information and they're kind of keeping it and, keeping things up their sleeves. And people have been very, very kind. And I really appreciate just being in that, that situation, that culture. And I think Colorado has been great for that, but of course it's probably that way in many other places too, but I do think it's great here. And we at least for me, I am in Weld County, which is actually one of the largest grain growing regions in the country. It's like second only to counties in California. So we do have a great sort of natural resource base for making whiskey. And I think that's kind of been underappreciated in general. So, and of course, every area has their unique soils, their unique grains, and I think we make some pretty good stuff. So I think that's exciting, and it's lesser known. And Colorado is so known for its beer culture. It has taken a while, but I think people are also catching on that distilling's pretty cool around here too. So I think there's just a lot of fun things about being in this area.
Yeah, I'm really proud of this project, and I can't wait to film it. I'm proud of the fact that we're doing it. I think that it's going to open bourbon fans' eyes to what else is out there. So it's Kentucky is always going to be number one, but there's room to expand the experiences, and there's a great scene. There's plenty of distilleries you can go visit, and I think it's going to be eye-opening for people to see what's going on there. So kind of cool. So I don't know if the audience here knows this, but you and I have known each other for a long time. Before I ever got it, my company, the ABV Network, was launched in 2016. But before that, I was a struggling author, self-published, so I could write about whatever I wanted. And I started out writing about what I knew, and that was the grocery business. I was worked for a food broker for many years, and what always fascinated me was how can you have in the condiment section or the pickles or whatever it is. How can you have, like a pickle company like Vlasic and all these ones that have all these marketing dollars and all that, and then on the shelf is this little company that just makes things local and sells it out there? How can they survive? And so I used to write books about called Small Brand America, and it would be about these small companies. And I decided to expand out a bit. I did one just on the beer industry, on craft beer, and then the first thing I ever did involved in bourbon was in 2014. I decided I was going to write a book because I liked bourbon about craft bourbon distilleries and kind of have the same approach. Small Brand America. How can small craft distilleries? How can they compete? And when you got all the big dollars and marketing and all the things that the big heritage brands have, and I reached out to you, and this starts the friendship that why you got to be in everything that I do. When we're doing a Colorado whiskey movie, you're going to be in it. When we're doing the Bourbon Talk Show, you're going to be on it. So why did you respond to that? I wasn't any known entity. Why would you say, yeah, I'll be in their book, Steve? I don't, this is fascinating to me.
I think we're both scrappy, right?
Right.
I thought, I can't help myself. I'm a recreational writer in my spare time. You've probably seen my Facebook posts, but anyway, right. I love the idea that you were doing scrappy things and I was doing scrappy things. And, a huge amount of what, motivates me to keep going in this is just, I think it's fun and I am scrappy about it. And I don't care if I'm living like a grad student. I mean, the funny thing is that's just not important to me. What is important to me is doing what I believe in and doing what I want to do. And I think I've always seen that in you. So thank you. And I appreciate your continued support.
Heck yeah. That's the way I am. Somebody who would take a chance. I mean, that's what I look back on. These brands, they've got a lot invested in the brands. Even the craft distillers, everything that they have is invested in these brands. And to put it out to an author that they don't even know, to write about their company, I think it's pretty cool. And, those people will always be important to me. And you and I have stayed friends after this. I can't say I'm friends with everybody that's in the book, but I have maintained some of those friendships throughout the years. People like Christine Riggleman was in that book, or my buddy Ryan from 10th Mountain Distillery. Those are friendships that I've been able to maintain all through this journey, and it's been a very cool thing for sure. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, actually, because I think it's fabulous, and I don't know. I appreciate just being friends with people with a similar mindset where it's just, we're going to be scrappy and we're going to make something happen. Yeah. It's definitely kindred spirits there because it is about, I would be a lot safer in the corporate world, but when I decided to do this, I don't want to be in the corporate world anymore. Matter of fact, I couldn't go back to it at this point, but this is great and it's fun. And, I'll never make the money I was making as in the corporate world, but I don't care. I'm happy now. I'm doing something for myself, which is awesome. So very cool. I'm with you. I periodically think, man, I was working a lot less and paid a lot more. And then I think, well, do I want to do that again tomorrow? Oh, God, no. I'm not even sure I'm suited. I think I might be, I think I'm spoiled. I think I'm ruined for it.
We're too much. You and I are too much pirate ship to be able to go back to the corporate world.
Exactly. It was bad enough. It was bad enough before. Now it's
right. Yeah, there's no go back. We're past the point of return. So yeah,
the ship has literally sailed.
Yeah. So the last question is always a goofy one, but I want to ask, who is your favorite cartoon character? So if you had to pick out any cartoon character to watch a show or movie featuring that character, who's your favorite?
Okay, so the funny thing is I'm just not like a giant cartoon person.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you what other people have compared me to.
Okay.
Wile E. Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote. There you go.
Yeah, I'm always like blowing myself up, but not quite. I still have all my fingers. Right. Proof. Anyway, although I've periodically threatened that situation. So yeah, I would say, yeah, Wile E. Coyote's got to be sort of my
I
kindred.
love Wile E. Coyote. And the best ones to me aren't the Roadrunner ones. Those are good, but the really good ones are when he's with the sheepdog and they're going in, they clock in at the same time at work in the morning, and then their work is he's trying to get the sheep and he's stopping them. And that just cracks me up, the fact that whoever thought of their clocking in is just.
I do love Wile E. Coyote. Yeah. And and he's always got some clever plan. He's going to,
right.
this is all going to go perfectly, and then he's falling off a cliff.
Never works out that way for him.
Running into the wall, and it's like, yeah, I think I had the keys to this grain elevator for approximately 10 minutes before my buddy and I tried to, literally kill each other on a 100-year-old man lift. By putting 2 people on it. It's a man lift, not a men lift. And I was like, yeah, that's classic.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Heather, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you for being part of the Bourbon Talk Show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for appreciating Teensy Weenie and Scrappy.
Absolutely. So we'll wrap it up. If anything you want to share, I'm talking websites, social media, anything like that is good by us, okay?
What I'm going to say is, man, stay tuned in the next few months and watch us on Facebook, Syntax Spirits. Syntax Spirits is our handle on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everything. And I look to be actually making a whole new website here by the end of this month. And so just big changes in the works now that we have this brand new still and brand new building. And it's going to be actually not quite as much of a work in progress, although I imagine I could spend 10 years on this building. But by the end of this year, it's going to be at least functionally done, and we'll be having tours again. And anyway, all good
kinds
things.
Of cool stuff. Yeah, looking forward to that. All right.
And Lisa, I look forward to meeting you, and thank you so much.
Yep. I look forward to seeing you as well, so that's going to be fun. Lisa, how about you? Where can people find you, learn more, follow the journey?
widowjane.com, obviously. On Instagram, myself personally is LB Wicker on Instagram. Facebook, yeah, we're out there. We've got an amazing social media presence, and I don't know all the things I'm supposed to be able to say to you.
That's okay. That's okay. You did good. They'll find it. It's easy.
They're all a lot younger than I am.
All right, here we are enjoying vacation, and we'll wrap this one up as we always do by talking about where people can find us. Justine, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
You can find me at JA_Maze on Instagram. You can find our shop at abvnetwork.com and on Instagram at ABV Network Shop.
All right, Mcnew.
I am on Instagram at Mcnew ABV.
All right, for me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com. We've also got a company website. That thing's abvnetwork.com. Check it out because everything that we do is out there. Previous shows, blogs, so much more. Maybe you're going on a summer road trip. We've got about 3,000 shows you can listen to, so check us out at abvnetwork.com. Please also check out abvbarrelshop.com. Get on our email distribution list. We'll let you know what's in the store, when we're going to be getting things open. Our target date right now is July 9th. It looks very good for that. Of course, some of the things are out of our hands, licensing and that, but it looks like we're going to be on track for that. And, barring any bump in the road, we should be good to go. And I'm very excited about that. So there you go. abvbarrelshop.com. Mcnew, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I would like to remind the audience to please give us a 5-star review. That includes comments. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. And if you like what we're doing, we ask that you please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/the ABV Network.
All right, there you go. Well, the three of us will be back tomorrow when we introduce the next show while we're on vacation. Take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace. Before we finish the show, let's talk about some great companies that support the ABV network. First up is Moonshine Still Pro. Moonshine Still Pro has a full line of products to help the home distiller.
Whether you want to experiment on the stove in your kitchen or you're looking for a bigger setup in your backyard, owner Russell Creed and his team can help. They have multiple still offerings, accessories, and even grain from their partners at Goldstone Mill to assist you in making whiskey on par with your favorite distillery. They can also help you with some fabricated parts you probably can't make yourself if you are attempting a DIY still project. Learn more or order your still or parts at moonshinestillpro.com. Another friend of ours is the Goldstein family at Goldstone Mill. The Goldsteins offer a variety of heritage and heirloom grains to make the finest whiskeys in the world. Plus, they are more than just a grain company. They are truly consultants to make sure the grains they are providing to you or your business meet your highest expectations. Additionally, they work with mills around the country, ensuring shipping is as low as possible for their customers. If you're a distillery, brewery, or even doing this at home, Goldstone can assist you. Check them out at goldstonemill.com, call them at 217-254-6613, or check in via email at hello@goldstonemill.com. Last but not least is the ABV Barrel Shop. While we don't get to play in the allocated bourbon game because we aren't selling the other products you have to do to get those, we do have access via our friendships in the bourbon industry to some really cool stuff. Have you ever seen your favorite craft distiller selling some really cool limited offerings only in their gift shop? I'm talking things like the hazmat offering Distillery 291 did for their 10th anniversary, or Neely Family Distillery's upcoming Papaw's birthday barrel. They don't have enough of it to send it out to distributors, so they only sell it via their gift shop. Well, companies like Distillery 291 and Neely Family Distillery have agreed to sell us 2 or 3 cases of these offerings moving forward, meaning our store will have the access to some of the rarest whiskeys in the world. Way more difficult to come by than the allocated bourbon offerings with a national release. Yes, they will be extremely tough to come by, but if you're a customer of our store, you'll have a chance to get them. Get signed up for our email or text list over at abvbarrelshop.com so you don't miss out.
The Bourbon Daily is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.